Imagine for a second that you are looking down at the Earth from space.
Okay, like from a satellite view.
Yeah, exactly, like a live satellite feed.
Yeah.
And you're watching this major geopolitical conflict just unfold in real time.
Right.
You can see, troop movements, the infrastructure, just the raw reality of the situation on the ground. And then out of nowhere,
Just cuts out.
completely, the screen just goes dark, the feed is cut.
Yeah.
Because, well, someone flipped a switch.
Wow, yeah. That really shatters that whole illusion we have,
What illusion.
That technology is just this, like, passive, neutral window into the world. It reminds us that someone actually owns that window, and they can just pull the blinds down whenever they decide it's necessary.
Exactly. And today we're doing a deep dive into a brand new, highly controversial manifesto that claims to know, exactly who cut that feed and why.
It's a pretty heavy document.
It really is. So the source material we're unpacking today was published today, actually, August 13, 2026.
Right, hot off the presses.
Yeah. And just to give you the exact context, the header of the document translates to English as tracked or intelligible continuation composed by Khalid Omana, assisted by AI, for multimedia broadcast on Patrioteus.com today, August 13, 2026.
Which is, quite the title to kick things off.
Definitely. But before we get into the actual mechanics of what this document by Khalid Omana is claiming, we really need to set some ground rules for you, the listener.
Yeah, that's super important here.
Because look, this manifesto contains some very severe, highly politically charged accusations. It touches on global conflicts involving Palestine, Ukraine, the United States, Russia, Iran.
It covers the whole map, basically.
It does. And our mission today is not to take sides. We aren't here to endorse or validate these claims.
Right, we are just impartially unpacking the arguments.
Exactly. We just want to look at the fascinating and, frankly, alarming case this document is trying to build about the role of big tech in modern warfare.
And the scope of the author's anger is just massive. But, it actually begins with a very specific technological action.
Right, the eyes in the sky.
Yeah. To understand this overarching theory they have about the tech industry, we have to start with commercial satellites.
Okay, so we aren't talking about, secret government spy satellites here, right?
No, not at all. The manifesto directly targets two major players in the commercial satellite imagery world. Specifically, Planet Labs PBC and Maxar, which the text also refers to as Vantor.
Right, private companies. And for years, we've relied on companies exactly like these to map the Earth or track climate change.
Provide open source intelligence for journalists.
Exactly. If you have an internet connection today, you can basically zoom in on a parking lot in another hemisphere.
It's wild when you think about it.
It is. But the tract claims that these specific companies actually suspended the broadcast of their satellite images over a very specific area.
Yeah, an area the author explicitly refers to as a, quote, genocide zone.
Which is an incredibly loaded term.
Very. And a core friction here really lies in the mechanism of that blackout. Like, how did it happen?
Right, why did the feed go dark?
Well, according to the document, these companies claimed they paused their broadcasts because they were asked to by a United States federal administration.
Okay, and what was the government's excuse?
The justification was operational security.
Operational security. On the surface, in traditional military terms, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You do not want high-resolution, live imagery of your troop deployments broadcast to the public.
Because the enemy can just log on and watch.
Exactly. An adversary could access it and use it to coordinate counterattacks. So traditionally, that's standard practice.
But Patrioteus is arguing that this operational security excuse is just a total pretext.
Right. They are not buying it.
Not at all. The document alleges that this non-diffusion, the deliberate refusal to broadcast, is actually an intentional hiding of evidence.
Yeah. The author claims it's meant to protect a scorched earth policy.
Which is a huge leap in logic.
It's profound. The author is suggesting that by turning off the feed just because a government asked them to, these civilian satellites are no longer neutral tools.
They cease to be just observers.
Right. They are actively diverted into becoming military assets.
It kind of reminds me of, when a police officer turns off their body cam right before a raid?
Oh, that is a really good analogy. Yeah.
Because human nature just automatically assumes the worst when a camera, quote-unquote, malfunctions during a critical moment.
Right. You instantly think, okay, evidence is being suppressed here.
Exactly. But think about the wild ethical dilemma this presents for the companies themselves.
That's a nightmare.
Right. Because if a private corporation owns the camera in orbit, who do they owe allegiance to? Do they owe the global public the unvarnished truth?
Or do they owe their host government obedience during a geopolitical crisis?
It's a huge question, and international law really hasn't caught up to that exact dilemma yet.
No, it hasn't. But the document is fiercely aggressive on this point. I mean, it flat out states that any private company involved in the, quote, manifestation of the truth must possess irreproachable ethics.
Irreproachable, so zero room for compromise.
Zero. The author's underlying philosophy is basically that capability dictates responsibility.
Meaning if you can do it, you must do it.
Sort of. It means if your tech has the power to show the world human rights violations in real time and you choose to blindfold the world instead,
Then you're complicit.
exactly, you're complicit in whatever violence happens in the dark.
Wow. But, if the satellites are just the eyes gathering the visual data, the manifesto argues the problem actually goes way deeper.
Right, into the brains processing all that data.
Exactly. The author moves from the literal vacuum of space right down to the ground, and they focus really heavily on the massive tech giants.
The ones they call GFAM.
Yeah, GAFAM.
Yeah.
And the document specifically calls out Alphabet, Google, and Microsoft's Azure platform. They zero in on this cloud computing collaboration known as Project Nimbus.
Because the physical cameras are really only half the equation in modern military strategy.
Right.
Project Nimbus is this massive, real-world cloud computing and machine learning infrastructure project. And the manifesto makes a staggering accusation here.
What are they claiming?
It alleges that these tech giants, through their cloud architecture and geolocation services, are actively targeting Palestinian civilians.
Okay, I have to push back a little on the sheer scale of that accusation.
I don't blame you. It's intense.
Right, because the mechanism connecting those two things is not immediately obvious to most people.
No, not at all.
Like, how does the author connect the seemingly passive act of just, renting out server space to the incredibly active, violent act of targeting civilians?
It comes down to how we misunderstand the cloud.
Because for a long time, we've viewed tech companies like landlords, right?
Exactly.
Like, if I rent an apartment to someone and it turns out they're running a criminal enterprise out of the living room, I am just the landlord.
You're not part of the cartel.
Right. I didn't commit the crime. I just own the drywall.
Well, the author rejects that landlord analogy completely when it comes to modern cloud infrastructure.
Why is that?
Because cloud computing today isn't just some digital filing cabinet where a government stores, like, passive Word documents.
Right. It's not just a hard drive.
No, these are dynamic, hyper-advanced ecosystems. Modern militaries use these cloud platforms to run incredibly complex artificial intelligence algorithms.
Okay, so they're feeding in data.
Petabytes of raw data. We're talking intercepted phone calls, live drone video feeds, real-time geolocation data from mobile phones, and of course, those satellite images we just talked about.
Just a fire hose of information.
Exactly. And the cloud platform uses machine learning to process all of that disparate data in milliseconds. It identifies patterns and generates actionable intelligence.
Oh, I see. So instead of merely renting a getaway car to a group of bank robbers,
Yeah.
the author views these tech companies as providing, like, an AI mastermind.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, the cloud platform is calculating the optimal route to the bank, finding the weak points in the vault, predicting the police response times, and literally telling the robbers exactly when to pull the trigger.
Yes. And at that point, the argument is that you are no longer a rental agency.
You are the architect of the operation.
That is the exact mechanism the author is highlighting. In their eyes, the line between providing civilian IT infrastructure and active military participation, it's just vanished. Completely.
Completely blurred.
Because if a state's military relies on your proprietary algorithms and your advanced computational power to execute a war, you are the engine of their operations.
Right.
The code your engineers write directly translates to physical actions on the battlefield.
Which means, if you are listening to this deep dive right now on a smartphone powered by a Google operating system.
Or if you use Microsoft software at your job.
Right. This manifesto directly implicates the ecosystem you interact with every single day.
It does.
The author views this technology as actively weaponized. And because of that, the document shifts tone pretty dramatically right around here.
Oh, it really does.
It stops just outlining these accusations, and it starts issuing direct, severe ultimatums to Silicon Valley.
The language pivots into some stark, deeply threatening legal territory.
Yeah, it gets really serious.
Patrioteus issues this formal warning to the VUVAM companies, advising them to immediately suspend all commercial and even non-commercial relationships with military commands.
Meaning a complete severance of ties.
Total severance, a total digital boycott of state militaries.
Let's just, explore the actual logistics of a demand like that for a second.
Sure, because it's mind-boggling.
Right. Like, what would actually happen if a Microsoft or a Google suddenly severed all ties with a major state's military command overnight, just based on these ethical demands?
I mean, we aren't talking about a military just deleting a fun app off an iPad.
Exactly. We are talking about unplugging the fundamental architecture of modern state security.
The communications, the logistics.
Everything.
Yeah.
The chaos would be absolute.
It would be paralyzing.
It's almost impossible to picture a corporate CEO unilaterally making a decision to cripple a sovereign nation's defense capabilities.
It is practically unimaginable from a corporate governance perspective, yeah. But the author is applying immense moral and legal pressure to force the conversation.
Right. And they use some very specific legal terminology here.
They do. The tract explicitly warns that any collusion with administrations involved in these conflicts makes the tech companies liable for criminal prosecution.
Criminal prosecution.
Yes. They warn these corporations against complicity in what they call an imprescriptible genocide.
Imprescriptible. That is a very heavy legal word.
It really is.
It essentially means there is no statute of limitations on the crime, right?
Exactly. The author is sending a chilling message to tech executives here. They're saying, you cannot run out the clock on this.
Because in international law, crimes against humanity and genocide are imprescriptible.
Right. An individual can be prosecuted decades, literally decades after the events occurred.
So the manifesto is taking a legal framework that is traditionally applied to military generals, dictators, state leaders.
And attempting to apply it directly to tech CEOs.
And board members. Even cloud engineers.
Yes,
Yeah.
It is this aggressively radical attempt to redefine who bears ultimate legal responsibility for the casualties of a modern data-driven war.
Wow. Just the idea that writing code in a coffee shop in California could theoretically make you a war criminal in an international court, like 30 years later.
It's a total reframing of corporate liability.
It really is. But then, after the document spends all this time building this incredibly intricate case for corporate complicity, it suddenly zooms all the way out.
Yeah, it takes a huge step back.
It leaves the servers and the satellites behind and introduces this massive global geopolitical theory.
Right, trying to explain why the public is looking the other way while all this technology is being weaponized.
Exactly. So the document concludes by outlining a sprawling theory of what it calls genocidal war propaganda.
And the author explicitly names the major conflicts that dominate our daily headlines.
Like the wars between regular, standing armies.
Right. It specifically calls out the conflict between Russia and Ukraine.
And the overarching geopolitical tensions between Iran and the United States.
Exactly.
And the author's interpretation of these massive state-on-state conflicts is just fascinating.
It really turns conventional wisdom on its head.
Because the tract argues that these traditional wars are actually being used as deliberate global diversions.
Yeah. The theory suggests that while the entire world is captivated by the almost cinematic spectacle of regular armies clashing,
Tanks rolling across borders, fighter jets, dogfighting.
state leaders issuing these dramatic televised threats.
Right. While we're all staring at that, the truly devastating asymmetric warfare is being strategically ignored by the global media apparatus.
It is basically a grand strategy of misdirection.
Like a magic trick.
Exactly like a magic trick. The author's propaganda theory relies on keeping the global population focused on the shiny object so they don't look at the shadows.
Right. Keep them distracted.
And the document specifically ties this concept back to Palestine. It insists that the conflict there is fundamentally misunderstood by the public because it is not a war between two regular standing armies.
Right. The author explicitly defines it instead as militias versus the people.
Militias versus the people.
And that framing completely shifts the psychological power dynamic for the reader.
It really does. How so?
Well, when we think of a traditional war, we expect a certain set of international rules, right?
The Geneva Conventions, rules of engagement.
Exactly. We expect a somewhat level playing field between two sovereign states with defined military capabilities.
Two armies fighting each other.
Right. But when a conflict is framed as armed militias fighting against an unprotected civilian population,
It stops looking like a battlefield.
yes, It stops looking like a battlefield and starts looking like a one-sided slaughter.
And the author claims that the global media apparatus, in tandem with these global superpowers, purposely keeps the public focused on the fair fights.
To distract us from the asymmetric ones.
Exactly. And if you connect this geopolitical theory back to the very beginning of the document, the entire manifesto forms a closed loop.
It really does. The logic holds together perfectly within the author's framework.
It's a very tight argument internally.
Because, think about it, if global powers want to distract the public with state-on-state wars, they have to ensure the asymmetric conflicts remain hidden.
Right.
And how do you keep them hidden? Well, you ask commercial satellite companies to cut their orbital feeds under the guise of operational security.
And you leverage private cloud infrastructure to quietly run those military operations far away from public scrutiny.
It is just an incredibly intricate web. I mean, we moved from a single satellite feed going dark to a unified theory of global media manipulation.
Now, obviously, the logistics of actually coordinating a conspiracy on that scale,
Getting rival global superpowers to agree.
getting competing tech giants and the entire international media to collude on a single narrative distraction, it's highly improbable.
Yeah, that would require a lot of people in a very big, smoky backroom.
Right. But the author's logic doesn't necessarily require a smoky backroom where everyone is plotting together.
No.
No, the argument is that the financial and political interests of the tech industry, the military-industrial complex, and state governments have simply aligned so perfectly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so the resulting system just functions exactly like a coordinated cover-up, even if it wasn't explicitly planned as one.
Wow. It just naturally behaves that way because of the incentives.
Exactly. It paints a picture of a world where technology has fundamentally compromised the pursuit of truth.
Which is a heavy thought. The document we explored today really paints a very stark picture of our modern reality.
It does.
I mean, it argues that a commercial company turning off a satellite feed is no longer just a simple business decision, but an active act of hiding war crimes.
It argues that providing AI and cloud computing is tantamount to pulling a trigger.
And it claims that the biggest wars dominating your newsfeed right now are just a magic trick. You know, a geopolitical diversion designed to keep you from seeing the real tragedies unfolding in the dark.
It's a lot to take in. And as you, the listener, process all of this, please remember that today's deep dive was an exercise in understanding a highly specific, highly charged viewpoint.
Right. We aren't endorsing it.
Exactly. We use documents like this to explore the evolving, deeply complex arguments about the intersection of private technology, international law, and modern warfare.
Because these questions aren't going away.
No, they aren't. The questions this manifesto raises about the ethical responsibilities of tech giants are questions our society, our lawmakers, and international courts are going to be grappling with for decades to come.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final fascinating contradiction to mull over as you go about your day.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
It's so good. So the document we've been analyzing includes a very specific header outlining its origins, which you mentioned at the start. Translated, it says it's an intelligible tract composed by Khalid Omana, assisted by AI.
Assisted by AI.
Yes, for multimedia broadcast on Patrioteus today, August 13th, 2026.
It is the ultimate paradox of the modern age.
It really is. You have this intense manifesto demanding intense legal accountability.
Threatening international criminal charges.
Right, and calling for total boycotts from big tech companies like Google and Microsoft.
Yet, this very document, this weapon of political dissent, was written using the artificial intelligence language models built by those exact same companies.
You are using the machine to rage against the machine.
Exactly.
Really makes you wonder, if you are relying on their proprietary algorithms to voice your rebellion, who is really in control of the message?
That's the million-dollar question.
Who actually has their hand on the switch when the screen goes dark?